Hello.
We're live.
We're live.
We're live.
Hey, okay.
Hello.
Welcome to Logic Apps Live, the February edition. No,
Yeah,
even better, the Valentine's Day edition.
Yeah.
You
Stop
stuffy
doing
English
that.
guys.
We do that all day.
I can't help myself. Yes, today is the Valentine's Day edition, and we have a lot to share with you. It's been a little while since
we've...
we've...
a bit red to go now.
Perfect. I got your soft spot. It's been a little while since we did our last broadcast. We've had a break with holidays and all that.
Yeah.
And we're working on some juicier features, so they're a little bit longer in terms of getting them out.
Yeah.
And we'll see that in what we're going to present today. So let's just get right to it.
Let's do it.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and share.
See if we can figure out how to put the slides up.
Yeah, right. Okay. Hopefully this hasn't okay.
Hey,
perfect. That's working.
Go.
Okay, so here's a webcast. What's up first? As always, you can find the latest and greatest features right into the portal management portal when you're browsing your Logic apps, and we show you that list of new features per release. But let's get into the new ones that are interesting. Okay, so we have a bit of a backlog from the stuff that we've done over the past 8 weeks or so. It's been too long since we did our last episode. One of those little nuggets is remove parallel branches. So we made it really easy to add parallel branches before. Now you can go into configure run after, and you'll see little X marks if you have multiple parents for that actual node, and then you can delete it, and then you'll unparallelize yourself, or remove if you have like 3 or 4 parallels. You can remove one from that list. Unparallelized. Yeah, that's a little hard to say.
Yeah.
What's next? Ooh, go ahead, John. So pass through.
Oh yeah, so pass through. So I'll show this a little bit later. But we've rolled out some new SOAP features. So I think since last time, actually this may be a bullet, so you may just be about to reveal this. We shipped SOAP back in October, early November, and then we shipped support for the gateway, which is a few weeks ago. So you can now do SOAP support with the gateway. And the final thing, we're just literally going out as we speak. Although it may take a few days to get to all regions, is SOAP pass-through. I'll actually show a demo of this in a second, so we can just keep moving and it'll all become clear.
Excellent. Let's see what's next. Ooh, configurable Logic Apps lifetime. This is a nice nugget, especially for those who are concerned about the new GDPR, European requirements for being able to determine the lifetime of your Logic apps, and you have to restrict it to 30 days.
And US equivalent of that,
and we have a US equivalent. So today, Logic Apps by default stores your Logic Apps history for 90 days, but now we allow you on a slider to go ahead and configure it to whatever you want, sometime between 7 and 90 days, and you can configure it to your 30 or 29 days so that you can be compliant. Exponential retry. This has been a long time ask. So we've always had a retry policy for every action, and it comes with a default retry policy. So we retried 3 more times with a 20-second interval. So now we put a little bit more smarts in there so that that default retry is actually still across the 2 minutes, but we do a little randomization so that, as you have lots and lots of instances, they're not pounding something at the same time. Plus, you get to configure your own exponential retry, so that you can go exponentially higher for each retry.
Yeah, so you can back off rather than just kind of coming back round again at the same time interval and hammering it again. So that's like you say, a lot of people have asked for that over the last few months.
Token tooltips. Oh, you're welcome. Have you ever had that instance where you're looking at your definition and you see the tokens that have all the same name and you don't know what it is? So either for which action is it representing, because sometimes you can have similarly named actions, or you have complex expressions. So now with token tooltips, you hover over that token and we'll show you the full expression that you have for that token. Really nice little nugget there. Oh, response schema. So in your Logic app, you can have a request and a response for making your Logic apps into like an API call. And now you're allowed to add a response schema, so you can affect the shape of the response that goes back. So what that allows you to do is now, if let's say you're doing a call workflow on that child Logic app, you get to see the properties of that that workflow as part of that response schema. Really nice. On-premises data gateway, custom connectors and high availability. Yeah. Finally.
Yeah. So these were the highest, I think, when you aggregated it on user voice. Everybody wanting to access SOAP endpoints as well as REST endpoints and be able to access those through the gateway, and then being able to access those through the gateway highly availably. So no single point of failure from end to end. So that's now all being delivered.
Yeah, so HA and REST and SOAP through the gateway. That creates huge avenues for accessibility to on-prem services. And custom assemblies and maps. Ding, ding.
Yeah, so there's another one that just went out last week. You've had the ability to do XSLT and put script in your maps, for a long time. But that's not necessarily all you want to do. Sometimes you have business logic inside of your own assemblies, and you want to be able to call out to those. So now in the integration account, you can upload your own custom assemblies and reference those from your maps to give a great way of being able to reuse existing code you've got, package as assemblies, and call them from your maps from Logic Apps.
That's awesome. That's a lot. That's a bunch of features.
That's a bunch of stuff.
Sometimes we have a higher rate of features that come out. A little more tidbits and stuff, but now we have chunkier stuff we're working on. But before we get to the next stuff, we still have a few more things to share. Let me go ahead and reshare this thing. Okay.
Didn't change
because I have to hit the button.
Yeah,
that's why.
That's
helps if you hit the button. Okay. So,
no, you forgot one.
I forgot one.
So liquid templates, again, this is something we pushed out about 3 months ago. We added additional actions for this now. So we originally had the ability to do JSON mapping. We now have text to JSON mapping as well. So just more options to be able to do mapping from more formats using liquid templates.
Okay, now we can get to the extras. Extras. New connectors. Woo, yay. The one that we've been waiting for such a long time. Excel. So we finally have an Excel connector in Logic Apps. So now you don't have to just play with your raw CSV. You can actually use Excel from Office 365 directly in your Logic Apps. PostgreSQL. We had a PostgreSQL, but it was read-only. Now you can do read-write with PostgreSQL. Go to meeting. Did we miss one? Oh, and the new coming ones. There's some exciting ones. So we have a bunch of now we're getting more and more partners building connectors for their services, and so you'll see a lot of these third-party services start popping up because they're coming to us and saying they want to build connectors for their services. So if you guys have your own service that you want to have a connector for, you can go ahead and follow the release pipeline and get your connectors published as first-class ones. The rules are that it has to be your service. For example, it's the GoToMeeting guys that will go create their GoToMeeting connector. You can't be Bob's GoToMeeting connector because we want to trust it's either Microsoft or the company that represents that service that's building the connector. All right. What's next? Ooh, okay. This is a long list. How much time do we have? Okay. Let's see. Let's just get into it. Complex conditions. So, today in our conditional statement, we have the ability to have a single, left and right-hand side with a simple operation in the middle. That really never satisfies anybody. And if they want to do something more complex, they have to go and write a really complex @ equals expression or whatever, condition they want. Now we'll have a complex condition builder right in the designer. So then you don't have to go ahead and go into expression magic to figure out how to do that. So we'll give you a nice way, very typical to how you see it in VSTS as you're building a query.
Yeah.
You get to have those rows.
Yeah. So if you've been using expressions to do this stuff, or you've been using, heavily nested if and else's, conditions, then this will be a much nicer experience.
Yeah. Degrees of parallelism for split on request triggers. So we released the ability to have concurrency in the request in some triggers, including things like the recurrence trigger. So you could set that parallelism and before we had sequential or full. So now we'll give you the ability to have a little slider so you can control that parallelism for triggers that now have either a split on or a request trigger. So we'll actually queue those up in our system, and you can determine the degree of parallelism, that depth of requests. So one of the things you have to be aware of is, you can't pound our system with infinite requests and have a parallelism of 2, right? Eventually run out of a buffer. So you get to configure all that stuff with the trigger. Track properties in Designer.
Ooh, yes. Yes, I'll talk about this. So we've had track properties for a while. Track properties gives you the ability to define in your Logic App definition, but only in code view, what business data items, what data is flowing through your Logic App that you care about, and pushing that out through our pipeline. So you can push it to storage, you can push it to OMS, and in OMS, you can then kind of search on that data. So it's a super useful thing to be able to do, but only being available in code view for a while. Boo, right?
Boo, yeah.
So track properties in Designer is coming soon.
Right. So first class, you get to go and add track properties right in the Designer experience. Snippets. Ooh, this is a nice little thing. It'll probably call modules when we come out, but snippets is, I think, what is more colloquial for people who use the Visual Studio and having snippets. So, in your picker, your connector picker will have some new tabs, and in that tab, we'll show you some snippets. A snippet is kind of a little a couple of actions that you want, as instead of having a full template that's a Logic app, you'll just have a few actions that you can go ahead and drop into your Designer. So for example, if there'll be some patterns for like try catch, we'll have a pattern for that, a request response. And so we'll have nice little snippet patterns that are that'll come right out of the box. Click it and you're ready to go. And so what we're trying to do is make your development even more rapid. That's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's always possible.
So speed of light.
Yeah.
Updated resource blade. So one of the things that we have in our resource blade is, it shows you a set of essentials and the list of your run history and your trigger history. And we wanted to make it a bit more user-friendly, informative. So now we're going to be changing that a bit and providing, putting the trigger history, because some people got confused, especially first-time users, which one they should look at. And so what we'll do is we'll have trigger history as a kind of a reference. We'll show you how many have run and execute, and show you a little summary above the history blade, and then where all the other functionality will work. But we'll give you a nice summary so you can see like how many actions you have and how many Logic apps ran or succeeded, etc.
Cool.
Yeah, be a nice little update. XSLT3.
XSLT3, yeah. So this is in progress right now. I'm actually looking straight at the guy who's one of the people working on this. So this will go out soon. We're just in our sort of final code reviews for this, so hopefully very soon.
All this stuff is going out soon.
Well, yeah, but
we try not to show stuff that's
soon
not
and
too
very
soon,
right?
Yeah,
And there's
soonish.
Soonish. Yeah.
An array control. So we just want to have a better handling of arrays in your Designer, so then you'll actually be able to like build an array for, if you have a connector that has an array property type, we now handle that much better with an array control. All this stuff is right on the cusp of going out. Chunked handling between limits. So we handle chunked encoding for 2 connectors, FTP and blob. And what that does is there's boundaries as to the size of the message that Logic Apps and the connector can handle. And once we reach that boundary, what we can do is have some smarts to say, let's chunk this. So then we can chunk it. That allows you to have up to a gigabyte of a message that can go between those two, or between 2 endpoints on the same connector. But there's a kind of an edge to that. The size that a Logic App instance can handle is 100 meg. But sometimes the size that a connector can handle is less than that. For example, FTP can handle 50 meg out of the box. So what happens to a message that's between 50 and 100 meg? And so that got a little, we didn't handle that really well, so we're making improvements to that. So then, if something comes in chunked because the connector's limit is smaller than the Logic Apps one, then we'll unchunk it, if that's a word. And then you'll be able to access it, if it's less than 100 meg, all the content, and then vice versa as well. So that's coming out really soon. Ooh. Trigger state failover. So disaster recovery for trigger state. One of the things our engineers are working on is the ability to have your trigger state. For example, if I'm looking at files, the trigger state remembers the last file you looked at. And so if you need to do a failover to an alternate site, then we'll give you that capability so that it can continue where it left off. We'll remember the last thing we saw in that alternate site. So some of that's coming out. It's going to be fixed pairs of regions because we're relying on underlying storage replication under the covers. And that'll give you a good start to a nice state failover story. Nice. Ooh, request schema validation. So right now we give you the ability to put in a request schema in your, a JSON schema in your request action. And that provides a nice feature where you can then tokenize the request that comes in and then reference all the properties in that JSON message. But sometimes people want to validate that it's a valid message coming in and then have an appropriate response to say, hey, instead of me having to go do the logic for dealing with a bad JSON message, just go right there and at the request go send an error if it doesn't match the schema that I'm expecting. Service bus SAS key support. So today we support the ability to access your namespace. And there's been some asks to also give you more granular control over the keys that we use that would be over the entity itself. And so SAS key support would do that. So then you'll essentially get two types of auth that you can choose from for your service bus. And so we'll be adding SAS key support soon. This is the last one. I think this is the last one, US Gov Cloud. So we'll be making some announcements, bigger announcements later, but we're in the process of pushing our Logic Apps to US Gov Cloud. And so then US Gov agencies can go ahead and have access to Logic Apps in that US Gov Cloud. Very cool.
All right.
Is that enough? I think our guys are busy. And we must have like 50 guys working on this thing.
Yeah, or more.
More. All right, then there's the connectors, and there's some really juicy ones in here. SAP.
Yeah, so we've had the SAP connector in preview for some time, and we've got a ton of feedback from everybody, which is great. The key piece of feedback we've had is we need a way to be able to have SAP trigger a Logic app, and we're working on that right now. We need the ability to be able to do the schema generation in Logic Apps rather than having the dependencies that we currently have or having to do it down in Visual Studio and kind of following that experience. So we're working on that as well right now, along with a number of other enhancements to make the connector easier to use. So this is something that is coming soonish, I guess. We're hard at work making a bunch of improvements to this. So if you're interested in SAP, feel free to, as always, to ping mail across, and I can certainly help you out and get you access to the early bits as we ship this later. Hopefully around about March timeframe, April, we'll be shipping out a new version of this.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a big deal. Another couple of interesting ones. Azure Data Factory. We built an Azure Data Factory connector, and we're working it through the pipeline. No pun intended. Actually, maybe there was a pun intended. Mm-hmm. So Azure Data Factory has pipelines to process your stuff, and that connector will actually be able to execute a pipeline, check on the completion of that pipeline, and cancel one if you want. So it's a really nice way to combine Logic Apps and Azure Data Factory so that you can get some more of these ETL types of workloads right from Logic Apps and in and out of Data Factory. Another nice juicy one is Workday Finance. We had a Workday HCM, human resource connector, and now we're working on Workday Finance connector, so we can continue extending our connector for Workday. And then we have a bunch of other ones that are coming down the line: Lithium, Zoho, Marketing, and Content Hub, Pitney Bowes. These are our partners that are building some of these connectors for theirs. Okay, so let's stop sharing for a second. Hello? Okay. Okay, so we've shared a lot of stuff with you, and one of the things that we want to do, did I stop sharing? Yes. One of the things that we want to do is go into a demo. I think this is possible.
I'm not sure. Let's see.
The demo gods are on our side.
Yeah.
Hopefully, so Cupid is gonna be at work here.
Okay.
So let me hand over control to John here.
Let's just pull up my screen. Okay, I'll get that probably crazy matrix effect. Can you see my screen? Not yet.
Let's see.
Sharing my screen. Just a delay. Here we go. Right.
That?
Okay, so we talked earlier about SOAP support. So this is what we have today, and I'll talk through some of the recent things we've added and then SOAP pass-through. So here I have a publicly accessible SOAP endpoint. It's actually running on a VM, and I have this experience in the Logic Apps Designer where I can consume that SOAP service by just picking the actions. So here I've got add two numbers. If you looked at that SOAP service when I click on the WSDL in here somewhere, I've got this add two numbers stuff, and this is the contract for SOAP. So all I need to do to create this connector is just point it at this URL. It will suck in the WSDL and generate that connector for me. And that's great. You guys have probably seen that before. But one of the things that we very recently added was the ability in this experience to be able to connect via the data gateway. Now, this is a big deal for SOAP services in particular, because you probably have a lot of internal SOAP services or older SOAP services that were not designed with kind of internet connectivity in mind or to be publicly facing. So how do you access these SOAP services if you cannot, expose them publicly on the internet, allowing Logic Apps to access them that way? Well, you can just check this box now and then just route the call through the data gateway. And to sort of show how that works, I will actually just add another action. And I have a whole bunch of SOAP services here. And let's see if this works. So because it's Valentine's Day, you can see I have these beautiful Valentine's Day connectors. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I can click on this SOAP demo connector. And you see the experience where it knows what the inputs are. So it took that from the WSDL, the XML schema contained in the WSDL, to figure that out. So it's just going to add these two numbers, and I could take the result of the previous call to the public SOAP service and then just pick one of these, and I could change the response and send out the response as being the output of the second SOAP service call, and save this down and just kind of illustrate this. This is all running on my local machine, so I can pop over to Visual Studio. This is the implementation of my SOAP service, except this time, instead of the only way I can debug this is it's got running on a remote machine. I can do a remote debug. In this case, I am just running it in Visual Studio. I've got the WCF test client thing here. I can click invoke and it'll breakpoint on the service, and that's great. It passes in the two numbers and gives me a response back. But I can also do it from Logic Apps. So to power that, because it's expecting an HTTP call, I can just do it from here, providing the URL to that Logic app, and just change some of these numbers, just so you know I'm not bluffing here, and hit send. It takes a few seconds the first time. Oh, not too long, actually. Straight away, it's done a breakpoint on my local machine, because the gateway is running on my local machine. If you looked at the actual definition of this thing, and I scroll down a bit more, you can see this is just local host. So, crazily, in my Logic App definition, in my connector, I have just put in localhost in the port, and then wired that up through the gateway to do the breakpoint in Visual Studio of the running SOAP service all on my machine.
What?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So I can just let that go, and then I can see the response back in Postman, and scroll down a little bit, and there you go. Who knew that adding these two numbers together would yield 40 by combining this together? But that's not all. As I mentioned, I know it's
Logic
just got to
keep moving something on your local machine. It just seems dirty.
Yeah,
but a good kind of dirt.
Okay, so as I mentioned, this is going out really, really soon. Is the ability to do SOAP pass-through. So what is this about? So in the connector creation experience, I have SOAP to rest, and I now have a new option, SOAP pass-through. SOAP pass-through gives me the ability to be able to essentially get my own SOAP message from somewhere and pass that straight in without having to do all the WSDL to REST formatting and everything else. And this is really useful when you want to put Logic Apps in the way.
What's up, Doc?
As a facade for that SOAP service. This is useful for a whole bunch of different reasons. Maybe you want to use, a modern integration platform like Logic Apps to go off and integrate with a whole bunch of other services and enrich that and create that SOAP message in the Logic App itself, or you just want to put Logic Apps in the way and receive the SOAP message posted in to the Logic App. Yeah, you put me back on camera. So a lot of flexibility now that you can consume the WSDL with just a few clicks and you've created a new SOAP service, or you can use SOAP pass-through and just have Logic Apps doing the kind of processing and seeing the messages coming in or creating the messages. You can create a liquid template that templatize that SOAP message and then enrich it with data from other services in Logic Apps. Whole lot of flexibility, and of course, there's also supports the gateway as well. And if I was to pop back over, and in the interest of time, I won't run the whole thing. I've got a blank Logic App, and I can just search for my SOAP connector, and this time you will see this experience where I actually have a number of different things, because it doesn't really know what I'm going to do. It's just getting out of the way, but providing me that conduit, that path to be able to send these calls, these HTTP calls through the gateway to my on-premises service. So you have all the HTTP verbs to be able to do that, and I can just do a post and then send that message in. So, in this example, I could just be acting as a facade, post that message into Logic App, the Logic App passes it straight on. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to show. Yeah.
That's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay,
Awesome.
Just take a breather.
Talking
There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
All right, but we have some more stuff. So that's the done part for our features and what's coming up on the roadmap. But there are a bunch of events coming up, and let's go ahead and share everything again. Share.
Ta-da. Ta-da. Yeah. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Okay.
All right.
The next big thing, Global Integration Bootcamp, Saturday, March 24th. This is an opportunity for all of you to go and kick the tires on our integration services. So there's going to be an event all around the world. So there's very likely one that's near you. We have a dozen or more.
I'm just looking.
Locations.
Lots.
That's there. Lots.
And if there isn't one running where you are, you can probably get involved and run one yourselves. This is a community-driven event, right? A whole bunch of our MVPs around the world are putting this event on, hopefully in a city near you. So, encourage you guys to attend and get a chance to hang out with experts in this field, on integration, and kind of hopefully learn something and get some hands-on experience with Logic Apps and service bus and API management and a whole bunch of other things.
Grid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Here we go. Here's all the cities. I can just add them up. There's at least 17 different cities. Yeah.
All around the world. So those will be happening around the clock on that day, depending on the time zone that you're in.
Australia, Belgium, Finland, France, India, Spain, Norway, Netherlands, New Zealand, Sweden, the United States, and the UK.
And a bunch in the United States in different time zones.
Yeah.
Excellent. So this is really cool. All right, what's next?
Nice transition.
I know you like that one.
Yeah.
We have Tech Summit. So there's a number of Tech Summits going out through the winter and spring, and there's probably one happening near you. The next one I'm doing is in Amsterdam at the end of March, but there's a couple of more that's I think before then.
Yeah, I think these are running like every 2 to 3 weeks, right? Somewhere in the world. And it really is a fully global event, this, all over the place in all geographies. So hopefully, again, there's one near you. It's a free event. You can just sign up and go. And just a whole kind of couple of days of Azure to immerse yourselves in all the different Azure services. And we have a session on Logic Apps and API management.
Yeah, you did the one in the UK, Birmingham, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be in Amsterdam. So if you guys are going to go to the Tech Summit in Amsterdam, come find me. I'll be doing a session on how to be an integration genius at that Tech Summit. All right, and one more, Integrate. So Integrate 2018 has been set for June 4th, and that's where you'll hear about a lot of our integration products, as well as specialists in that field coming up and talking about their integration stories and scenarios and great tidbits on how to build better integrations.
I think this is the largest Microsoft integration event on the planet. The organizers have got a bigger venue this year. I think there's a capacity about 50% higher than last year and the year before. A whole bunch of people from the team are coming across, Logic Apps and API Management and BizTalk and Service Bus and Event Grid and Flow and a whole bunch of products. So, we as Microsoft have a whole bunch of sessions, and then our partners and MVPs also have a number of sessions. So a full 3-day event packed with sessions across anything to do with integration with Microsoft.
Okay, as always, it's not sharing anymore. As always, you can find us in multiple different channels, and we're live. And so please reach out to us if you have any questions, or there we go. If you have any questions, back here for a second so you can see that.
That's telling me I'm sharing. I don't know why.
Oh, let me try this.
I'm not. You can grab it.
I'll grab it. Present to everyone. There we go. Not working. So we have our ways to connect to us. Please, reach out to us if you have any questions or just want to say, hey, you guys are awesome. We always love that stuff too. Let's see if there are any questions. Are there any questions in the?
I'm going to kill this and see what happens. Right. Yes, we've got a few people.
Okay. Let's leave this on our faces.
Yeah, nice shirt. Thanks, Jeff. It's even got the heart logo on it right there for Valentine's Day. I had that pretty especially. Release notes tab. Okay, we are fixing that too. I think we fixed this already. The release notes not getting updated on the regular
Derek should
basis.
Be updating that.
Yeah, if that isn't fixed right now, it's going to be fixed very, very soon. Apologies for that. Custom assemblies. Do we have documentation on that yet? Soon, really soon. We're working on that right now. Trying to think of the fastest way we can kind of show you that. We'll figure that out. But yeah, look for documentation in the next few days. Logic has some functions sitting in a tree kissing. That was you.
That
okay,
was
yeah. Any improvements to OMS monitoring on your radar? I don't know specifically what you're looking for. There's nothing we're working on right now around this. I think probably the most useful feature kind of around this is being able to create the track properties experience in the designer. The track properties light up already in our OMS Logic App solution. Is there anything else you think we should be doing there? Just let us know. We can consider it added to Logic Apps wish, or send us email. But there's nothing specifically coming in the very near term around more OMS and log analytics integration. Okay. I think that's it.
Excellent.
Well,
everybody have a great Valentine's Day. Remember to give a big hug and kiss to your loved ones.
Yeah.
And
don't go there.
Right. I won't touch you anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. That's it.
All right. Yeah. Thanks very much.
See you next time on Logic Apps Live.
Yeah. Thank you.
And